Have you ever felt eyes watching you from the depths of a dark forest? Have you heard whispers in the wind that sound almost human? Gather close, dear viewers, for a tale that will make you think twice about venturing into the woods alone. Ezra Thorne had always felt at home among the ancient trees of Blackwood Forest. At 19, he'd taken over his father's position as forest ranger, patrolling the vast wilderness that had been under his family's protection for generations. But on this night, as the full moon hung heavy in the sky, the forest felt different. The usual symphony of nighttime creatures had fallen silent. No owls hooted, no crickets chirped. Only the whisper of wind through leaves broke the eerie quiet. Ezra's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, creating more shadows than it banished. He was investigating reports of strange animal attacks. Hikers had gone missing, only to be found days later, or rather, what was left of them. The official story blamed bears or mountain lions, but Ezra knew better. He'd seen the claw marks, far too large for any natural predator. A twig snapped behind him. Ezra whirled around, heart pounding. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice swallowed by the darkness. Only silence answered. He pressed on, deeper into the heart of Blackwood. The trees seemed to close in around him, their gnarled branches reaching out like grasping fingers. That's when he heard it, a low, rumbling growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Ezra's breath caught in his throat as a massive shape emerged from the shadows. It stood on two legs, easily 7 feet tall, with muscles rippling beneath matted fur. Its eyes glowed an unnatural amber, fixed squarely on him. This was no ordinary wolf. Its muzzle pulled back in a snarl, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The werewolf, for that's what it truly was, let out a bone-chilling howl that shook Ezra to his very core. Survival instincts kicking in, Ezra turned and ran. He could hear heavy paws pounding the earth behind him, gaining ground with terrifying speed. Branches whipped at his face as he darted between trees, vaulting over fallen logs and weaving through the undergrowth. His lungs burned as he gasped for air, terror lending him strength he didn't know he possessed. But the forest he knew so well had become a maze of shadows and menace. Ezra glanced back for just a moment, and that's when he tripped. He went sprawling, his flashlight flying from his grasp and shattering against a rock. In the sudden darkness, he scrambled backward, feeling the rough bark of an ancient oak at his back. The werewolf's eyes gleamed in the moonlight as it stalked toward him. Ezra could smell its hot, rancid breath. This was it. This was how he would die, torn apart in the forest he'd sworn to protect. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The creature's head snapped up, nostrils flaring. It let out another spine-chilling howl before bounding away into the night, leaving Ezra trembling and confused. It wasn't until he heard the answering howls that he understood. There wasn't just one werewolf in Blackwood Forest. There was a pack. Somehow Ezra made it back to his ranger station that night, locking every door and window. But he knew, deep in his bones, that no lock could keep out the horrors that now prowled his forest. The next day, Ezra tried to convince himself it had all been a terrible nightmare. The power of denial is strong in the light of day. But as dusk fell, bringing with it the sound of distant howls, He knew the truth. The nightmare was all too real. He considered fleeing, abandoning his post and the generations of Thornes who had guarded this land. But something held him back. A sense of duty, perhaps, or a morbid curiosity about what secrets Blackwood Forest truly held. Night after night, Ezra ventured out, armed with nothing but a silver-tipped walking stick, a family heirloom he'd always thought was merely decorative. Now he understood its true purpose. He caught glimpses of the pack as the days wore on. Sometimes it was just a flash of fur between the trees or the gleam of inhuman eyes in the darkness. Other times, he'd find massive paw prints in the soft earth or claw marks gouged deep into ancient oak trees. But it was the howls that truly haunted him. They echoed through the forest, a symphony of hunger and rage that set his teeth on edge. And sometimes, in the dead of night, he swore he could hear something else mixed in with those bestial cries, something that sounded almost human. Ezra began to research, poring over dusty tomes in the ranger station's archives. He learned of an old curse, a pact made centuries ago between the first Thorne Ranger and something ancient and evil that dwelled in the heart of Blackwood Forest. The werewolves, it seemed, were drawn to a specific place deep within the woods. They sought something buried beneath the forest floor, something that called to their beastly nature. And it was the Thorne family's sacred duty to keep them at bay, to protect not just the wilderness, but the nearby town whose residents had no idea of the horrors that lurked so close to their homes. As Ezra delved deeper into the forest's dark history, he began to change. The constant fear and vigilance hardened him. The boyish softness left his face, replaced by a grim determination. He trained his body and mind, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. But nothing could have prepared him for the night of the blood moon. The air itself seemed to pulse with malevolent energy as Ezra patrolled the forest. The full moon hung low and heavy in the sky, bathing everything in an otherworldly crimson glow. The first howl split the night like a knife, closer than ever before. Ezra gripped his silver-tipped cane, knuckles white with tension. They emerged from the mist like nightmares given flesh. A dozen werewolves, led by the massive alpha Ezra had first encountered. Their eyes burned with hunger and something else, intelligence. These weren't mindless beasts. They were hunters, and Ezra was their prey. What followed was a night of terror beyond imagining. Ezra fought with everything he had, the silver of his cane leaving sizzling wounds on furry hides. But for every beast he drove back, 2 more took its place. He was driven deeper into the forest, past the hiking trails, and into the oldest, most primeval section. Here, the trees were so ancient and massive that no sunlight ever reached the forest floor, and at the center of this darkness stood a clearing, perfectly circular and unnaturally still. Ezra realized with a chill that this was what the werewolves truly sought. Whatever dark power called to them lay within this cursed place. With a burst of desperate strength, he fought his way to the center of the clearing. The werewolves howled in fury as he reached a stone altar, ancient and covered in moss. In the sickly light of the blood moon, Ezra could see symbols carved into the stone, matching those he'd seen in his research. This was the source of the curse, the wellspring of the werewolves' power. With trembling hands, he began to recite the words of an ancient ritual, his voice growing stronger as the chant progressed. Around him, the werewolves' howls turned to whimpers, then to agonized, human screams. When dawn broke, Ezra found himself surrounded by naked, shivering humans, the curse apparently broken. But as he helped the confused and terrified people to their feet, he caught his reflection in a pool of water at the base of the altar. His eyes, once a warm brown, now glowed with an amber light. He had broken the curse, yes, but in doing so, he had taken it upon himself. Now it was Ezra who felt the pull of the full moon, the stirring of something wild and inhuman in his blood. The young ranger straightened his back, a newfound resolve settling over him. He would bear this burden, as generations of Thornes had before him. He would keep the secrets of Blackwood Forest, protecting both the wilderness and the nearby town from the horrors that lurked in the shadows. But on nights when the moon hangs full and heavy in the sky, hikers in Blackwood Forest swear they can hear a lone wolf's howl echoing through the trees, a sound filled with sorrow, rage, and something unspeakably hungry. And if you find yourself near Blackwood Forest on such a night, dear viewer, take care. For not all monsters bear their teeth. Some wear the face of a solemn young ranger, with eyes that glow like amber in the dark. If this tale of sylvan terror has left you hungry for more, make sure to howl your appreciation in the comments below. Don't forget to sink your fangs into that subscribe button and ring the forest bell to join our pack of nightmare seekers. Until next time, sleep tight, and beware the wilderness after dark.